Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Hayden, and I lead our North America Startup Program here at Snowflake. Joining me today are founders from 3 startups building fast-growing applications on the data cloud, each at a different stage in his or her startup journey. Jennifer Huynh is CEO and co-founder of pre-seed startup Adaptive Pulse, whose job is to help SaaS companies retain their hard-earned customers with predictive analytics and AI. Banerjee is CTO and co-founder of Anvilogic. Anvilogic is a Series B cybersecurity platform that helps analysts detect threats within their networks. Stefan Kochi is CTO and co-founder of Paytronix Systems, a customer loyalty platform in the convenience store, retail, and restaurant space that remains an industry leader by operating like a startup. Each of these founders has built successful companies on Snowflake, and each can speak to the unique experiences and decisions they made along the way to win customers and beat the competition. The goal of today's session is to learn a bit about their businesses, their industries, and how data plays a role in their product and decision-making. Let's kick things off with some unique questions around the challenges you face in your industries today. Jennifer, you founded Adaptive Pulse in 2020. You're just getting started in a space with some major players. What is broken in customer success? What fatal errors do you see other companies making, and how is Adaptive Pulse approaching that differently?
Thanks, Carly. So in customer success, the main problem is the leaky customer bucket, where companies are reacting to unhappy customers and they're losing them. They're not even knowing how or why, and it's too late to win them back. Within our own customer base, we've ciphered out that it's because of knowledge gaps due to data silos, relying on human instincts instead of making data-backed decisions, and again, the reactiveness to it. So to address this, we created a true 360 customer data view. So that includes unstructured, structured data, internal and external data, where most of the times customers or businesses are just looking at structured data. So usage data and CRM data, right? We want to give the context behind that. So we pull in all the other unstructured data and the analysis of that, and we switch companies from a reactive state to a proactive state with the predictive analytics and models.
Security threats pose a massive data problem for companies. Notoriously expensive tools, fragmented data landscapes, and long lag times between attack and detection are giving the bad guys the upper hand. How is Anvilogic's application connecting the dots for your customers?
Absolutely. So as you pointed out, the threat environment is getting fierce, and clearly detecting breaches inside the network, which is what we do, helping SOCs, security operations centers, find breaches inside the network. It requires access to large volumes of data and then run complex analytics, including ML machine learning workloads on those large volumes of data. Where we see customers now constrained in a number of areas. One is that skill sets are constrained out there. Hiring is a tough market, finding the right skilled people to help detect breaches, which means the quality of insights we generate using our analytic methods and machine learning methods is important. So customers want, high quality, insights for their analysts that they have at an acceptable cost on the large volumes of data they have, right? And this is where Snowflake does really well. That actually it's able to sort of lower the cost of bringing in high data volumes. In some cases, 30% of the cost we see, that customers are paying to existing, data lake vendors. And being able for us to run large compute workloads, machine learning and analytic workloads to help improve the quality of detection insights we can offer to our analysts is how we see, us force multiplying the SOC, the Security Operations Center for enterprises, and help them, automate the detection of breaches and threat hunting.
Stefan, we're going to change the question up a little bit for you. Paytronix sits at the center of data, food, and consumer engagement. There's a lot of new behaviors that were introduced by the pandemic, particularly when it comes to food. I know I myself DoorDash like 3 times a week. Tell us how Paytronix is leveraging data to take advantage of the opportunities and the challenges driven by this shift.
Sure. So let's start with what you said about yourself. You like ordering from DoorDash. So in that point, that's a great example, which I think represents a lot of consumers, especially after the pandemic. There is a very good chance that your profile is safe with DoorDash, but you may be missing on the restaurant offering. So how do you solve that? And that's where Paytronix wanted to help the market by moving the guest data from third party to first party. So Carly, you can still have the experience you wanted, the convenience, picking it up whenever you want it, but also the restaurant knows who you are. For example, and just let's stretch the example a little bit and say, the restaurant may know that you order salad every Wednesday. It's been 2 Wednesdays. Perhaps they should do something different about you. And you can extend this, of course. So now to zoom out of this example that you said that is very relevant is what we are noticing is that restaurants and convenience stores are moving to digitization. The restaurants are getting closer to being tech companies. And they produce, as a result, they produce more data. And this is what made to us Snowflake very attractive, because if anyone that knows AI knows that anyone who deals with AI knows that AI requires a lot of data, large volumes, and different types. So you need a centralized place to store them and process them, which is very important. And that's what we're seeing.
So all of you are facing data challenges in very different industries, and yet each of you chose to build your application on Snowflake. Take us back to that initial architecture evaluation. What business goals did you have in mind, and how did Snowflake support those goals? Stefan, since you went last time, we can start with you.
I will give you a very simple example that illustrates how easy it was for the technical side. For people who are deep on the technical side, you know how a query on a database query can be very dangerous if you don't write it well. So you can select everything from everything to exaggerate. When you are working in the world of relational databases, and you have such a query, the only choices you have is to go back and rewrite the query or get a bigger machine. So I gave this example to one of the Snowflake as we're doing the proof of concept. And he wrote a bad query on purpose, very consuming. And I said, well, how can we make it faster? He went up to the top right corner, chose a bigger warehouse, and the query came back. Anyone who deals with how consuming the database processing is can see the value. So that was, to us, that was immediately of value. So what is the goals? Carly, you asked the question, what were the goals? So the goals that we had were 3. The first one is, as we deal with customers, we produce a lot of data, but that doesn't really make it wisdom or knowledge or insights. Choose your own word there. So the first goal was to go from a lot of data to insights. That was number 1. Number 2 was trust. Whoever the consumer of our reports is, they have to trust the report and the data. How many times have we been to meetings where someone presents, the room wants to question for the right reasons, and someone goes back, the author goes back to the Excel pivot table, et cetera, because that's how the report came back to them. And that was important. I wanted the team to trust the data. And then all in one place, as some other people spoke in this room. The data is of different types. We have OLTP, online transactions. We have checks, movements, etc. So all this had to be in one place, and Snowflake was a good container for us, first to begin with. And then the processing power was very, very good. So what we saw during the POC and then later on is that some of the jobs that we needed, they went 5 times faster. Now, this is amazing. To go 5 times faster is actually very impressive. And Deb mentioned the cost. We also saw that. For some of the big projects that we had, we saw a drop up to 50% drop on cost.
Deb, he kind of teed you up for you to be the next for the response. Do you want to chime in next?
I'm just going to reinforce some of the things he said, actually. Insights on lots of data, at reasonable, acceptable cost. That's what I think, enterprise SOCs, the Security Operations Center folks are doing. They're looking for breaches inside their network, collecting logs and alerts from various different products. But there are a small number of them. They can probably do 10 alerts a day, right? That's all they can do. Now, clearly, the more data you got, the better your detections are going to be. The more, automation you can bring to bear, ML, AI, rule-based automation, the higher quality insights you're going to generate. And one of the things we are seeing, today, SOCs, they have technologies out there that have a certain cost and operational footprint that's not modern anymore, really, compared to what a Snowflake brings. And we see that in licensing models, Snowflake, for example, some of these workloads are looking probably 30% cheaper than some of the, systems customers have today. So customers are super interested. And of course, there is a constraint also that nobody can rip and replace existing systems. They're looking to augment existing systems. And as Snowflake has been, working with Snowflake with our customers, it has been fantastic to bring Snowflake, into their existing data lakes, augmenting the existing data lakes and bringing in data sets that were unable to bring to their existing data lakes because of cost constraints or other operational constraints, bring them into Snowflake and offer the same sort of detection analysis tool based on, as Stefan was mentioning, you got to have built in a fair amount of machine analytics. The machine's got to do more of the thinking for you than the person doing the thinking, That is a force multiplier today. Sort of it addresses this question of both security efficacy. Can I get better insights, higher quality insights, catch my breaches earlier with the skill set of the people I got, because my people are busy working already on 10 different tools, and they're not looking to get more tools unless there is a force multiplication coming out of it. Analysts, security analysts are pretty busy working existing tool set. When you bring a new tool set into the picture for them, if you're going to expect them to spend more hours of their day on one more tool, there has to be significant value of force multiplication in terms of detection efficacy available to them through the AI, ML, the automation insights we build out. So the combination of cost, and more powerful insight against bigger data sets at an acceptable cost is super critical to our customers. And that's where we're having the greatest success working with our customers today.
Jennifer, how about you wrap us up?
Definitely. So aside from what Dev and Stefan mentioned of the security and the cost factors, and I'm not going to take the credit for fully choosing Snowflake. My co-founder and CTO actually obviously had a huge part in making this decision of choosing to build our multi-tenant solution on top of Snowflake is because we have different sizes and types of high usage clients. And with Snowflake, we're able to separate the storage and the compute and better manage to their needs. So whether that be that they need more storage or they need more analysis. And I know that we're also able to avoid kind of that noisy neighbor problem where the most high usage customers don't consume all of the available resources. So with Snowflake, we're able to determine like the size of the data ingestion and the storage at the beginning and charge based on usage and value, which is how we like to operate.
When it comes to Snowflake, there's no one size fits all deployment model. Deb, you actually touched on this a bit in your last response. When it came to your decision about which deployment model to go with at Snowflake, whether it was a managed SaaS application approach or a connected application approach or a hybrid, walk us through the design choice that you made for your company and the impact that it had on your customers. Deb, why don't you start?
Absolutely. I think great question. So clearly we see in the larger end of enterprises where people are sensitive about data in cloud and have compliance and legal considerations on data in cloud, there is a strong preference in buyers towards having their own Snowflake account, the connected app model. Actually, we see there's a strong interest there. And they have the people who can set up the account, But even there, we will help them sort of bring data into that world because bringing data into a new data lake itself is its own challenge, and we help our customers bring there. But we see significantly, and we play a lot in big enterprise, and there we certainly see great interest in the connected app model. I think that's the default model we see out there. In mid-market, where people may not have the staffing actually to bring up their own databases and manage their own databases, data warehouses in Snowflake, we are seeing some interest for us to do it on their behalf. So we're seeing the managed app, the hosted Snowflake account be of great interest out there. Now, with the Snowflake, of course, when the hosted account, the power in the case of the managed app is that it gives us greater flexibility to deploy more complex workloads, complex analytics in there because we have free access. We have greater access to the databases. Now, on the connected app side, with the good news with Snowflake is with their sort of set of powerful APIs and some of the sort of additional platforming built on top of that, the Snowpark, particularly the capability to run ML workloads inside of the customer's connected account. That's huge for us, I think. Customers are excited that now they can have ML workloads running in their Snowflake account that is under their compliance and legal scopes. There's great interest out there. So we see in different markets, different adoptions of those models that we have, connected and managed apps.
Jennifer, how about you tell us Adaptive Pulse's approach?
Similar to Deb, we are SaaS, serving SaaS. So we are the managed SaaS on top of Snowflake, which actually helped us go to market faster. But naturally, our next step is to become a connected app, to be deeply integrated with Snowflake, which gives our customers the peace of mind and the trust, as well as providing us customer exposure as being a partner.
Stefan, how about Paytronix?
So when we met, Snowflake already had a lot of data being produced. So we went with an installation of Snowflake using one of the public clouds where we have a massive presence. And over time, we build data connectors to the Snowflake from different sources. A lot of it produced by us, but also by our customers. What ended up becoming actually a fantastic feature that came out of Snowflake was the ability to share data securely. This is a little bit what Deb was talking about, but if the customer wants to get their data, you can have the secure view or secure share, how we call it. And that ended up becoming a very powerful tool for us. Our guiding principle on this choosing Snowflake was we have to do what's convenient for the customer, not what's for us. And it was very convenient to have it on a public cloud where people can actually drop the data or connect the data. Another powerful thing for that Snowflake offers that helps us is the ability to do processing and get real-time data results in front of our customers. And we're using that heavily every day.
So we've heard a little bit about your businesses today and your past decisions with Snowflake. I want to know what's next for your companies. Jennifer, how about we start with you on this one? Which trends in your industry are you most excited about for Adaptive Pulse?
Trends overall is, customer-facing teams now, non-technical teams becoming more data-driven, wanting their 360 insights in real time, not having the luxury to wait for that because customers are in the midst of churning, and of course de-risking that in real time makes a huge difference for businesses. So for us, Snowflake being the data cloud and allowing us to help get time to value and time to market faster for them, get them their insights faster is something that's really exciting, and allowing tools like the modern data stack with reverse ETL, DBT, and Adaptive Pulse to quickly access that data and provide the value to the customers, near real time is something that I think that has really been a game changer for us to help our customers de-risk their customers from churning and acting immediately on upsell opportunities.
Deb, what emerging opportunities should we keep an eye out for in the cybersecurity space?
So, and I think to sort of reinforce one of the points Jennifer made, actually, better insights at scale, right? So the threat environment is fierce. And one of the challenges with security is that the threats keep morphing constantly. What I saw yesterday is not what I'll see day after. Things are changing. It puts a great burden on companies like us have a fairly good high quality threat research and constantly keep producing analytic detection technologies for detecting these breaches inside your network. When I see a Snowflake, it takes care of my data plane, right? I don't worry about scaling. I don't worry about how much data I can bring in, how fast I can process it, because I'm pushing it down all into Snowflake. So for example, if you're running fairly heavy duty machine learning models, whether you're training the models or you're running inferencing on the models, we delegate all of the work onto Snowflake actually, right? That Snowflake is our data and compute planes for these layers, which keeps us free to work on better detection, better efficacy. And I think to Jennifer's point earlier, better insights. We give you better breaches with better context to make faster analysis based on the data plane that we're running on Snowflake. So I think for our customers, it's a win because they're going to get better quality detections. And this is an area of constant sort of innovation for us, actually, better threat research, understanding, threat actor methodologies, which analytics works better, doesn't work better. We have to keep retiring analytics as threat actor behaviors changes. We focus heavily on that part, actually. And we delegate out all of these sort of data elements, whether accessing big data, running at scale, running multiple workloads, against customer sort of data sets to sort of the Snowflake data plane. So overall, this is the path we're going on, and our focus will be on continuously building out, new analytics, new detections, actually, and new hunting methodologies on top of this data plane.
Great. And I'd actually love to wrap things up with some advice for our audience. Stefan, what wisdom would you share with companies that are looking to build an application on the data cloud today?
So I would start with several audiences that you have to convince from the get-go. There is a very good chance your first audience is someone in finance, worry about cost. They should feel comfortable with how Snowflake works and explain the model. The second thing is the technical team that you have. Technical teams are characterized by pride. I can build it myself, which is fantastic. That brings innovation. But there is a lot of things that you can explain well. Why is Snowflake what it is? What is the world doing that Snowflake is so successful? And by making small examples, get a data set that people understand and show how good Snowflake is at processing and how you can get actually the results back. The third one will be with a customer that already has a data insights team, or whichever way they call it, data processing, data insights, they work for marketing, it doesn't matter. They do care about this. They want the data, and the data needs to be clean. But first and foremost, need to be clean, and can they change it? Can they add more data types to it and get the results back? The wisdom that you mentioned, or insights. And these are simple things to do. You just start with the project that people care, and gradually you will see. One experience I can share from Paytronix is that when you go to recruiting, to hire people, if you mention Snowflake, it becomes actually a selling point. People like to come in, join us, and work with Snowflake.
That's a pretty good selling point to me. If we have time, I'd love to wrap things up with a final question, because I know that we have a number of product managers, technical leaders in our audience who might be thinking about applying for the Startup Challenge. And Jennifer, Adaptive Pulse was a finalist last year. What, quick words of wisdom would you have for those founders who are thinking about applying for the challenge?
So being a part of the Startup Challenge was really fun. It gave the team something to rally about. It made us and pushed us to think bigger, think better. So internally, it was a great experience, and it was great to be put into the top 10 of the startups within the challenge, working alongside Snowflake, and even exploring and learning about what other teams are currently working on. So definitely I suggest for other startups to apply to the challenge.
Well, we've had a great panel today, hearing from our three founders here. Thank you all for joining. Stefan, Deb, Jennifer, it's been a pleasure. Everyone go check out their cool applications they're building. And, I bet they're all recruiting. So keep an eye out for that as well.
We are. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When you touch me, baby, my heart is on fire. You're so sweet and so lovely. Only one I desire. Now that I have found you, don't need a disguise. 'Cause when you turn me on, you open my eyes. I wanted to tell you so. I wanted to let you know. I can't help but see it every day. I want you. I won't have it any other way. I need you. How I adore you.
Unistore with Snowflake. Bringing together analytical data and transactional data. Finally.